Second paragraph. We know, we spoke about this previously, that we have a concept which is has been taken over by the majority of mankind from the contrast between Gan Eden and Gehinnom. Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, also called the paradise, the utopia. Then we have Gehinnom, which is hell, heaven and hell. So the concept of the paradise is expressed also through the Garden of Eden, in which there was complete harmony between all the creatures on this globe, and harmony between Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, harmony between them, even though there was a Nachash, the primeval serpent, which somehow was either in or in the vicinity of the paradise. And that's the lost paradise, paradise lost for mankind, and it be regained. And what does all this signify? Now here I want to say the uniqueness, I would say, of the Musa approach, which is in the whole of the Tanakh. It goes more deeply. In other words, that when we are told of such episodes, situations in different parts of the Tanakh of the Bible, they carry with them sort of the basic message for every human being, that you can choose between hell and heaven, you can choose between Gan Eden and Gehinnom. We spoke about the Gehinnom being connected with the Moloch worship. So to bring it to our day also, you can choose between dedication to death against dedication to life. In the infamous incident of the Paris supermarket, where the Jews there were being held as hostages by the terrorists, so there's an interesting conversation between the Jewish girl in the supermarket who's a hostage and the terrorist. The terrorist said, you know, what's the difference between you and us? We believe in death and you believe in life. That's the truth. They believe in death. They think death and killing people will bring them straight to the paradise. They're promised, and this is the main power today of the influence of the fanatical, anti-religious, so-called articles of faith of the corrupt Islam. You know, because Islam does describe anyone who follows Islam, so it goes into a paradise where all the pleasures that he dreams of when he's on this world will become fulfilled. Whatever fanciful teenage goes on its mind, the greatest pleasures, which you can't get hold of in this world, if you be a loyal Muslim, you'll get them in the paradise. And this be developed today. If you kill as many people as possible in the name of Allah, although Allah said lo tirtzach, but it doesn't apply to you if you kill a lot of other people, even fellow Muslims. But if you're doing it for the sake of your particular interpretation of the Islam, They go straight into heaven. And they straight away have that paradise. That for them is the Gan Eden. And Gehinnom, in fact, that's what all those who don't accept their particular dogmas will get. No, it's true, it says in the Chumash, to Am Yisrael, to some extent to the whole world. It also applies to the whole world, to every human being. See, I've set before you today virtue and life, and vice and death. Even that is the biblical interpretation. The person who chooses virtue, it's up to his choice. It's a v'chata b'chaim, you can choose it. So this concept, which is mentioned explicitly in the Chumash, is often avoided. People don't realize how important it is. Just today we're beginning to realize it. Because those who believe in vice and think by carrying on with their vicious acts of cruelty and murder, they're really choosing death. Because they're not following Hashem. Hashem, as his name implies, is the master of love, not of hate. He is, we call him Chei HaOlamim, he's the life of the universe. Of course, then you've got to ask, why did he create also Gehinnom? The answer is, because he's given the greatest gift to human beings that is possible. The greatest gift is the power of choosing. It's up to us to choose. So now I'm going to put this introduction here into the words used here in this talk by Rav Dessler. Abio, the explanation is, what is it that differentiates between hell and heaven, or between Gehinnom and Gan Eden? It's just a hair's breadth. Because Gan Eden, Gehinnom, Teluyim b'bechira tova or ra'ah. Everything depends upon whether you choose virtue or choose vice, choose the good or choose the evil. והנקודה העיקרית של כל בחירה טובה תלויה בהתרכזות על מפת האמת שבתוכו. And the innermost point of freedom of choice is by concentrating upon looking at the ultimate moral truth which exists inside the human being. It's a very fine point. And this is like a hair's breadth. V'yadua, it's well known, sharotze lishbo et yitzro, the person who wants to break his evil inclination. They'll tell him, satisfy your appetite, even if it means harming other people. Whether the appetite is power, pleasure, whatever it is. And you've got to break your Yetzirah even the smallest point. And it says, Yitzro machpil et kocho b'rega v'rega. One understands the nature, called inclination of evil. What is it? It becomes stronger at every moment when you battle with it. It's kekapitz, it's like a spring, a metal spring, for example. The more you squash it down, the more it strengthens opposition, made in such a fashion. And that's where you get in technology. You use strong springs, push them down, then they push back. That's how it works. He says you can give an illustration from human character development. For example, he brings a good example, which Rav Dessler brought a few times, and he from his own self. Because like so many people very much dedicated to Torah learning a few generations ago, one of the things that helped the concentration was the smoke. And it was thought in many circles that if you want to concentrate upon something, take some cigarettes or tobacco or cigar. It helped people more with cigarettes because of it has a certain impact on the adrenaline and so on. So therefore, a person is able to concentrate more, whatever he happens to do, even today. We know people who are in a situation where they have to have a lot of concentration, even though generally they won't smoke, but they'll take cigarettes. And then sometimes you can't even blame them. In such a situation, for them a cigarette's much more important than food to keep themselves going. So that's what drug is. A drug. It's a drug which some people even need. Time of great crisis, even in the Holocaust it was known, there were some people that give away their last bread ration to have a cigarette because they felt they're becoming complete zombies. How can they get any concentration of clear thinking? And they needed a cigarette for it. The people also in great stress in the army, they have to go to battles, that helps them. And so also some of the greatest scholars a few generations ago, they used to smoke regularly. As a result, the person who doesn't use such means, so he needs 8 hours sleep. But they want to be wide awake for many more hours. So how they do it? They smoke. Smoking helped them to sleep 4 hours a night. And they could cope with it. They could learn with concentration. Rav Dessler was a person like that in his early life. Then when he found out it was bad for his health, he accepted it. It's interesting, the Chofetz Chaim, when we started our yeshiva, I happened to be a person, each person's different. I was especially, it's a personal matter. I suffered from breathing problems when I was a youngster, had asthma and other things. So I ran away from smoke. I found it very, very disturbing because it brought on difficulties to breathe. So therefore, since then, all my life, I've run away from any smoking atmosphere. When I was the Rav in the shul, and I had to go to the weddings and so on, if I got to smoke, I just left because I was supposed to have stayed on, so I can't do it. It's too difficult. Then when I started the yeshiva, in fact I published in English the words of the Chofetz Chaim. He lived 150 years ago, and he foresaw this. He saw that people, also in the religious community, they thought smoking is fine. He said, no, you should try to stop it, because he foresaw that it can do harm. That's great. Chacham adif min avi, min ivesit. Also it said, it wastes time, it wastes things, better do without it. Okay, but the very great Gedolim who smoked, Rav Dessler also, great Muslim was a smoker. So that he gives this. So what did he do when he found out he had to stop? It was not easy, because it became part of his basic needs. It just like he was hungry for food when he didn't have enough. So if he could have a cigarette, he would crave for the cigarette to be able to not go to sleep and carry on in his deeper thoughts and how to express them. So he decided to stop, and then he told people, in order to describe to you this procedure, how he was able to get over it. As soon as he decided to stop, he started his moral talks often by saying, I want you all to know that I've stopped smoking. Then he was obviously ashamed, the power of shame stopped his craving, so that we could do it. So he says here like this, here, because he refers to this in many of his talks, he says, "Ledugma, whenever a person decides not to smoke, the first time he sees the literature, maybe seen a film, how it destroys the lungs and so on. So at the first moment, it's quite easy. It's not so difficult. But after a certain time, then the more he stops himself from smoking, the more the craving becomes stronger, until the craving breaks his resolution. As it happened, he managed to control. It wasn't easy. Same applied to Rav Shach, also a similar situation. As you know, that the person who looked after Rav Shach's health in his old age, Rav Chaik is called, Rav Chaik. And he made a campaign in the Haredi world to stop smoking. Nearly all the poskim decided young people are forbidden to start it because it's so dangerous, it limits life. So an ordinary cigarette contains 100 types of poison. And they don't live, it's poison not only for themselves. In fact, this happened in Lakewood Yeshiva some years ago, before people stopped smoking most of the yeshivas. So there was a person who came to the doctor, he had a bochor, and he had severe problems on his lungs. So the doctor said, "You've got to stop smoking." He said, "I've never smoked all my life. I've never smoked." So the doctor didn't believe him. So I can see on your lungs, you've been a constant smoker for years, and you're ruining your lungs. At that time, there's tuberculosis and other things. You better stop quickly. So the doctor's non-Jewish, so said to him, "Well, listen to me. If you claim you've never smoked, tell me, where do you work? Where do you study?" "In the yeshiva." So he said, "Well, do people smoke there?" "Yes, plenty of people smoke." "Well, that's it. Not you. The smoke, the person who smokes, the smoke goes to the neighbors, goes to the whole building, and affects all of them. So you were too close to smoke for many hours of the day, it ruins your lungs." That was years ago. And I'm very pleased. I didn't know this. When we moved over, the yeshiva moved from a smaller place where I could stop the smoking. And then we rented Yeshivat Chevron, where there were also, in the yeshiva, they were coming to davening and to learn there, many Talmidei Chachamim who smoked. So I got in touch with the anti-cancer movement in the hospitals, by the film, and I showed the film. I invited everyone to a nice Malava Malka. We're going to show you a nice film. In that area in Gula, there are plenty of people who would go in from the area, and they all enjoyed looking at a film. But when they saw the film set, so of course then they had a problem. But many of them, as a result, they changed a bit. So I'm also pleased, although in the yeshivas as a whole they didn't stop smoking till more recently, but I read recently in Shivat Mir they also made a rule, no smoking allowed. And here also we have to nullify it. But when little youngsters start smoking, there's the physical danger. Older people who smoke, they know they've got to be careful where they put the cigarette ends. Not going to throw them around, responsible people. But these little boys, they'll throw their cigarette ends even if the cigarette's not really extinguished yet. And we've had plenty of cases, even in here, when through a window they threw not yet extinguished cigarettes. One time there was only like a curtain at the top, and plenty of holes which were burnt through. And on the other hand here, they throw on the balconies, they throw on people's laundry, or they even throw it, which is such worse, in the middle of the summer, they throw it on the ground where there's dry twigs or any foliage. And that's been a real danger, and it's most likely, can't prove it so easily, that the recent fire we had upstairs, which only the she was only saved by miracle, was because irresponsible youngsters, they threw down cigarettes. That's very dangerous. And I'm saying this now also, if you find anybody smoking here of that nature, please help us to stop it because the truth is, I'm pretty worried as long as we have irresponsible youngsters who go around smoking, and they even the shops aren't allowed to sell cigarettes to a boy under 18, but they get them, they get hold of them different ways, and they're smoking. I get complaints from the neighbors. They say, your boys from the Vaishalayim, because they don't know much difference between the third floor and the second floor. You know, they're smoking at our doorstep. And it's no good, they're leaving the cigarette ends around, and they saw the fire, they think the yeshiva is irresponsible. So you've got to be careful. In fact, I once came back from this, go to Mincha later, I came back, and I saw them on the hill, a few of them, 2 weeks ago, making a bonfire. I don't know, the big flames, a whole dozen of them up there, which is a great danger. For many of these days there are fires going on and they create damage not only to possessions, sometimes also wound people. So please, we must all do our best. But now let's get back to the subject. So he says what happens is, if you're fighting the Yetzer Hara, sometimes the tzaddikim who work hard at removing their faults and the seeds of evil inside them, it becomes very difficult. The sages say, Kol hagadol mechavero, yitro gadol mech. The greater person is, the stronger becomes the evil inclination. Because you have to fight against it, the power of evil fights back, like the spring, the metal spring. So there with the tzaddikim, for him it seems like a mountain, because they see the way there's a multiplication. רואים את כל ההכפלות של היצר הרע, שצריכו להילחם נגדם. They had to battle against them and to be victorious over them. So פי לבבות של הנקודה הראשונה, which is 10,000 times as strong as the first point. And the wicked just sees the hair's breadth, because that's all it is, and he cries, why didn't I manage to overcome the hair's breadth? And that's why they cry. Now it's like this, that we know there's the case at the beginning of the Chumash of the battle between Cain and Hevel. And Hashem saw the intentions of Hevel are good, so he accepts his offering. The intentions of Cain were not so good. So then he complained. Cain complained, why do you accept my offering? So Hashem said to him a very important sentence. It said that Imtativ says, if you will always pursue virtue and good, you'll be lifted up to the top of the world. Vimlotativ, but if you do not do good, you don't pursue virtue, then it says, Vimlotativ, then lapeta chatat rovetz. You should know at the entrance, the power of sin is crouching, ready to attack you. Because if you say, I'm not going to pursue virtue, then you open yourself automatically to possible attacks from the power of evil inside you. The desire of the power of evil, of sin, is to get hold of you, to cause you to fall. But you have the ability to rule over it, become victorious over it. That means temptation for sin crouches at the door of every person's character. And you've got to battle to ensure that it doesn't get into you. Once it gets into you, becomes part of your inner self, then you're addicted already, you're caught. And then it goes from step to step. The battle becomes much stronger. If you can keep it, not to enter into your Garden of Eden, that means into your power of good and virtue, then you're fine. And it was the same, this really reflection you want to understand this verse, it goes back to the Nochosh and Adam and Chava, the same thing. The Nochosh, it was the entrance to Gan Eden. And there's different interpretation. Midrash, where was the Nochosh? Who's the Nochosh? Everyone agrees that the Nochosh represents the Soton, which is the obstacle race, we spoke about that, the power of evil. And that's the Yitzhara, that's the Malach HaMavet, the cow of death instinct, and it's also the evil inclination. So the evil inclination was crouching at the door, which answers the question, famous question, if Adam HaRishon, before Adam and Chava ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, it appears they did not know the difference in good and evil. If you say they knew already the difference in good and evil before they ate from the fruit from the tree, then what extra aspect came to their character when they ate from the tree? They knew it before. And if they didn't know the difference in good and evil, then how can you call it a sin? It's only a sin if you know there's a difference in good and evil. So the Rambam says the difference is that before they ate from the tree of good and evil, they knew the difference in truth and falsehood. When they ate from it, it became Yodei Torah. They experienced evil. That was the experience, not the knowledge. Knowledge is not something you have from outside. Experience, it's also intuitive inside. And the Zohar says the same thing, but different ways. It says the Nachash was at the entrance to the Garden of Eden. It was there. And it wound itself around the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in order that the poison should get into Adam v'Chava. So that's the same principle. So he also explained on the basis of this, that this is the difference between, in the future, when Hashem will slaughter this Satan, that means he'll take away its addictive power. So then, the wicked will say, with cry, why didn't we control it? A little bit at the beginning was just like a hair's breadth. So he said, B'chiyat Hashem Pirusha, Shezeo Tikunam. The crying of the wicked people is the way they can correct their evil which they did in their lives. That's Gehenna. And it's a tickle for them. Now that's the suffering of Gehenna. Suffering of Gehenna, they recognize they've done wrong, and their soul gets purification. And the crying of the tzaddikim, Rashi says, Nizkarem b'tzaram, they remember in their pain, Sha'elahem lirbosh orosh hazeh b'chaim. They said we should have controlled this wicked power during our lives. V'zeh leman yakiru b'kol tzat shmaya. Otherwise, they should recognize the greatness of the help that from heaven to be able to overcome these temptations. And that's a good Baruch Hu also. He wonders with them how you're able to do it. Lelamed ladat shel pikidra b'chira schava onesh, because of the concept of freedom of choice, reward and punishment, which were fixed shenikbu lefi hanagat ruchaniyot sh'olam, called the spiritual guidance of this world. Lo ha'eshayich chesed v'zekazeh. One couldn't have such a loving kindness. So Elorak mitzav Kodesh Baruch Hu atzmo. Only Hashem Himself, who is entirely loving kindness, and they're without limit. V'chasadav him b'li gevul b'tachlit lachen kiblu chesed kazeh. That's why they were able to reach this high level of loving kindness, and therefore they wonder, humanly we couldn't have done it, but we're given help from above. So, realize all of us are brought into situations on our level which are temptation. And you find in life, for example, let's say a person is more or less overcome, sometimes also through age and so on, he no longer has so much the Yetzirah of youth. The main Yetzirah of youth is desire for pleasure. That's it. It's the strongest power that sometimes comes interwoven also with the desire for power. But when you get older, then there's another desire that becomes stronger, which wasn't so strong in youth, and that is the desire for fame, glory, appreciation can become quite strong. And you find especially also even people who work hard on the midot, but if people insult them, that becomes very difficult. The more the person is away, because even the laws are, when it's a question of putting someone to shame, then how do you translate payment for shame, which is also then we payments of Knaz? It says Hakol Lafi HaMavayish VaMitbayesh. Everything depends upon who's putting whom to shame. So maybe if a dog barks at a human being, then he doesn't feel so much shame. The dog barks at him. So if people are from very low and they go and say nasty things of people very high, it's not so difficult to ignore it. After all, these people are low people from the underworld, and they go and make insults in the newspapers or wherever, insults against one of the great saints. It doesn't affect them very much, because he says these are people who everybody knows are just a lowly lot who don't mind spreading all types of evil speech against someone who's very great. But the great person, he feels they think, let's say today, they have to see much great people. They can't get along with one another. Why? Because they feel that the other side is taking away a little bit of the honor that belongs to them. And underneath, subconsciously, it works upon the person. And so the person's got to work on himself, not to feel insulted, consciously. And if he allows that power of, after all, I am one of the great Gedolim of the generation, and therefore, how can I allow this person to say negative things about me? So it creates distances and creates often also a split. That's what happens. I'll tell you a situation with which I was involved. It's a great pity this happened, and it's not, but someone can understand it. Because there's so much mass media around also in the world of Torah. I've always tried to follow the policy, maybe I got it also from my own home, where they followed that policy. The zechut is due to, I think, to my parents, my ancestors, not to me. But somehow I was brought up to try and appreciate everybody's value. So I got close to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And on my first visit, I went in fact on a Chabad trip from Manchester, because the president of the Shechita board was the Chabad Chassid. I was marrying off his son. They wanted me to come onto the dine of the Beit Din. So I got a ticket to go to America. So I had talks with the Chabad Rebbe. Also went to see the Satmar Rebbe. I went to see Moshe Feinstein. I did Rav Henke. I went to see many Gedolim Hutner, many different great giants, who had their followers in America, Hasidic ones, non-Hasidic ones, nearly all types. That's right. So many on the flight, they said the Rebbe is the Mashiach. So I couldn't believe it. So when I went to the Rebbe, I asked him, and he said, he brought me proofs from the Gemara that he can't be the Mashiach. But he said, we're all going to wait for him. And that's what he tells everybody, wait for him. But the Hasidim, many of them, probably under Christian influence, most of them, they became Balei Tshuva before, they came from a Christian type of education, so therefore they couldn't separate entirely the concept of the Mashiach from the one who got to have a different Mashiach. They left the old Messiah, who who died and came back to life, will come back to life again, and now they're changing their religion. So therefore they found it difficult to give up entirely the concept of a God who becomes a human being. That's the Mashiach, according to Christians. If not that, at least, that the Mashiach is godly. So since he often spoke about the Mashiach in their subconscious minds, and some also consciously, they identified with it. And it brought them also, we've got to keep the whole Torah. But the Rebbe, even he made a statement, anyone who says Mashiach shall not come to his synagogue, his Beit HaMidrash, he forbade it. Anyway, we had a few talks about it, but you can't get it out of the minds of many of the Mashiachistim. Try to do it. Well, so it's like this, that when this was reported to one of the greatest Rosh Yeshivas, I mentioned it, I was also very close with him. There's some people, even I spoke to the person who most convinced him, there was somebody who in fact he said, talks with him about it, also a person who knew a lot, he was a Chavrus of the Lubavitcher Rebbe in learning. And he suspected that the Rebbe had some identification. Because perhaps in his eyes didn't deny it strong enough. I mean, I know Chofetz Chaim in his last years, he constantly spoke about the need to look forward to the Mashiach. And today, Rav Kanievsky says it all the time. I think, got to prepare for the Mashiach. He's on his way, he's already around. They even say, people tell me he's saying the Mashiach is in the streets. You've got to prepare for him. So, they make such statements, but some of them they make it, the people should know we've got to do teshuvah. Because everything counts, everything's for teshuvah. If we don't do teshuvah, who says what's going to happen? But we should never give up hope and think, we're all lost, because Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Geula is very near to come. And this caused, it's very interesting that one of the greatest Dayanim here in Israel, son-in-law of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who was very close to him, he is a strong Chabad follower. He's the Rav of the Chabad Shul in Ezra Torah. And he says, of course, he knows that the Rebbe was against him being called the Mashiach. But still, even when I spoke to Shlomo Zalman about this at the time when this Vikuach arose, but still, that's what happened. So Rav Shach made a campaign, against Lubavitch, which also was part of the reason for dividing the Agudat Israel into two parts. They produced two papers and made two parties, and we've got to bring back the unity. I'm saying this because it's happening in our generation. It's not finished yet. We've all got to work on it. And like anyone who's able to, this is all part of what's happening today. Because when people become on a higher level, so you get different parts, one thinks the other one has got that view, and this got this view. We have to learn, the greater you become, the Yetzer Hara becomes greater. And it comes in all sorts of ways. A person would think, I've already brought Torah to so many people, so I'm the one. And we've got to do it in all areas. Also, let's say, even the Kiruv movement. For this, Kodesh Baruch tells you, don't ever think that Kiruv, whatever you're doing, is due to you. It's due to everybody working together. We've all got to work together. We've got to follow the way of humility, and we've got to work against the sin of pride. And that's very important for people learning Torah, because the Torah does give you a sense of great achievement. The person reaches a high level of learning, produces a lot of Sforim, and gives a lot of Shiurim. So then comes the Yetzer Hara of Kavod. Takes the place of the Yetzer Hara of Taivo, which he had early on, which they're able to control. And some people. So this is the concept everyone in his life, as long as we're alive, we choose between Chaim and Mavet. We choose between Gehinnom and Gan Eden. So let us, all of us, choose life and choose Gan Eden. Any questions, please? Or comments?
May I ask?
Yes.
Have you been inspired to write any books about this type of product, about getting over gaiva and kavod, things of this nature, according to Rav?
I'll tell you my situation, folks. When I was in Manchester, I started writing a bit. And then to give the yeshiva, I wrote a few articles. But I thought to myself, I can't, the position I'm in is very difficult.
Sure.
And it become more difficult. I do hope a few years, and I'll say this to the group that's here, because you can help with this, that since we've gone to the age of communication, in fact, some years ago, we were perhaps even at the forefront of it. First of all, we produced some of the first videos, and because we had people who came to the yeshiva, and they knew the technology, and therefore they were able to produce the videos. Then when the Dragon program came along, we also had a big expert, and with these talks that I give now through Kol HaLashon, at that time, and also with MP3, we can perhaps get some of the audios onto the website of the yeshiva. So I made certain things. I've tried to continue. Rav Carmel was successful in transforming his talks into books. He did it very well. Rav Olba also was able to transform his. Rav Olba gave a lot of talks and transformed them into books. Some of them only by the students. Rav Carmel, in his lifetime, he also was able to produce books, both Strive for Truth, which were adaptations from Rav Dessler, as well as his own books. Master Plan, it's a brilliant book. But also not enough. So when they started the Dragon program, I was hopeful that it would be possible to transfer all the talks I gave onto a text, and then it's much easier to edit the text and get some people to work. But for that, I needed cooperation. I did have, there was a certain year when I had a student listening to the shiurim who typed out the shiur, he's such a quick typer, whilst I was giving it. And that's, so I've got his typescript also from. And I thought, there's a few things. First, if there are any of you who are good at editing, there's a few things which I want the students to be able to help me. First of all, to improve the Dragon program, that we can get it started to get it with these talks. And one of the things I wanted to do was to, since I've gone through most of it, it exists on tape, what I'm doing now. Rav Karma produced Strive for Truth, 6 volumes, which cover about a half of the talks in Michtav Eliyahu. So I've got on tape some of the videos, most of just audios, most of the rest. Now I'm just trying to complete it with these actual shiurim. So if there's anyone who can find the technical means to transform the present shiurim, which I'm giving now, into text, it would be a big help. And then maybe we'll be able to get together. We've got to get quite a few people to help with editing, because when I spend my time on that, I won't be able to spend my time preparing the shiurim.